We can do a lot of woodworking and be our tool experts. As a matter of fact, he is the tool man at Castine in Guild School. They depend on him for tool recommendations and taking care and making the tool. And he's going to tell us what tools we need to do all this stuff. Shannon is what we need. He gets all your stuff.
Okay, well, good morning. As Kat said, I do take care of 60 lathes and 50 or 60 table saws and so forth and so on. At Castine, we probably got, the guild probably owns 400 or 500 pieces of equipment stored in the basement. But anyway, Kat asked me to do this, and I've never done anything like this before for such a big group. What I usually do is I do a table saw demo or a lathe demo or something for 10 people. I can't do that, too many people. So what I'm going to do is talk instead, which is not bad. And I think that you people probably do everything. I mean, you probably do some furniture. My guess is you mostly all do something that has to do with structures, and either they're 1/44 scale structures or they're 1/6 scale structures, but they're structures of some sort. And that means you need basic woodworking equipment to do it. So I'm not going to talk about paintbrushes, and I'm not going to talk about molding equipment, and I'm not going to talk about kilns or any of the specialized things that people use to do certain things. I think that, and I just made some notes, and I'll leave them here. Common hand tools, everybody has. The name has a list. And you really need something to measure with, which is the scale, more commonly called a ruler. And I like to use a ruler that has it's in decimals rather than metric. And it's usually, I most of the time use the 1/16 scale on everything I do. And if I need the 32nd, my tendency is to go right in between the 1/16 inch lines. And the type of rulers that we use and sell are they're little machinist 6-inch rulers. I'll leave them on the table. You can look at them later. You can't see them, but it looks like that. And they're graduated in 1/8 on one side and all the way to 64th on the other side. There's an old saying in woodworking circles that the only purpose of the 1/100th of an inch scale on a carpenter's square is to file your fingernails. But you can't see it. You can't see it. So anyhow, the ruler is important, and when you get a little bit beyond the ruler, did I put a caliper in there? Nope. No, well I didn't. But I'll just talk about it anyway. I use a dial caliper all the time, and that's in thousandths of an inch. Now they make them now that are in fractions if you absolutely have to do that. I've gotten to the point where I can say, well, 31.5 thousandths is the 32nd of an inch. And 62 and a half is a 16th, and that's not critical, but it helps you, particularly when you're measuring thicknesses, like a thickness of a piece of lumber. Now we all know that with lumber, that if you're doing 1/12 scale, the 16th of an inch scales to 3/4 of an inch, and most trim in houses is a 3/4 of an inch. So 16th of an inch is sort of the basic thing that you're going to be working with, and I do that. So those are the two measuring things. Now, in order to make things square, you need some way to do that. And most people have some sort of a gluing kit. This is the ones that we make. There are a variety of other kinds, from little to middle size to small. They need to be square here, and they also need to be square up and down. And a lot of times they aren't, because sometimes if you're doing a box, say, you want that joint, you're going in two different axes. you know, the up and down axis and the around the corner axis, and that's good. Now this, Pam I wanted these things. I said, what size? She said, I want a size that we can take with us. So I said, okay. What size is that? Well, she said, okay, how about a 3x5 business card? Okay, this is 3x5. And then people had to have one bigger. So we made them bigger. And this is 6x9. Now the reason it's 6x9 is because the only way I could get the sheet metal, the rolls of sheet metal so that we could make these things magnetic was it came 6 inches wide. So you don't want to get it 12 inches wide and try and cut it and so forth and so on, because that's a problem, cutting this stuff. And I found out that this very thin sheet metal isn't even sold in sheets. It's so thin, they sell it all in rolls. Not that you care, but it's sort of interesting. And we decided that we had to have the metal base because people wanted magnets. So we went out, we tried magnets, and we finally found a place that would sell 1,000 magnets. So we buy 1,000 magnets, which is probably not a good thing around a floppy disk, but now we don't anymore anyway. Or one of the former Hilton room cards, which always seemed to fail. Anyhow, we got these, and I don't really use them as a clamp, but they are convenient sometimes for positioning. If you want to position something and get it square, you can use these magnets to hold it, and the magnets will not stick to the aluminum. Somebody asked me that yesterday, and I said, if you come up with a way of a magnet sticking to aluminum, we'll make $1 billion together. Because everybody would love to have that, but it doesn't exist. Anyhow, squares, glue and jigs, files. Well, I didn't talk about squares. These are machinist squares. And they always have a little cutout in the corner. And everybody says, mine's defective, it has a cutout in the corner. Well, they make them that way for 2 reasons. One reason, it's almost impossible to get the corner really square. And it also allows you to stick something in it when you're doing something. And that's the standard machinist thing. I do, and they're available this side. We used to be able to get little flat ones. Sometimes the flat ones are good. They were like 1 by 2 inches. They didn't disappear. The price went up to something outrageous, like $30 or $40. Nobody's going to buy that. So I decided to make them. So I make them out of aluminum, and I make them about this size. And they're really not hard to make. But then I give them to her, and she starts putting one of these squares on them and looking at the light and giving them back to me. And then I get them square. And it's a process. It probably takes a week to do 30 or 40 of them, and it does the same thing with the glue and jigs, because you need to have a quality control department. And anyhow, so that.
Want to hear the answer? Don't ask the question.
And that's the squares and the glue and jigs, and then you've got files, which you can't see it, but files are very important. We had a class, and we had a problem where somebody had to get something flat. And of course, they immediately started sanding. Well, sanding is the easiest way to wreck something that I know that's square. You want to cut flat, and then if you need to keep it flat and take a little bit off or smooth it, something flat is good. Yeah, sanding block. I had some of those in there. You did? Well, maybe it didn't get there. Yes. Magical. This is the sanding block. All this is a piece of melamine shelving cut with sandpaper double-faced on it. Highly recommended. We use them in class. You can use this, and it doesn't round corners the same way. A file will do the same thing on a small thing. These are very useful. This thing that it came with is used for putting a piece of picture frame molding or something in it and being able to absolutely get it 45 degrees. If we're doing parquetry and we're doing mining, doing around an edge, and some of you have taken, how many of you have taken classes from? Any of you? A bunch, okay. Well, you might have taken this when we're doing any type of a border that's minor. We'll cut it on the table saw and it'll be really close, but if it's off a hair, you can put it on this and sand a little bit off, and it'll keep it the way you want it until it fits just in there. And also, it has a 90-degree thing on the end. That's the deal on that. And I won't take credit for inventing this. So it's similar to something that Jeff Wanacott used to use. Class I took from him a long time ago. I'll give him credit for it. He certainly would never make anything like that. So anyhow, so that's yeah, knives. Knives are also interesting. I guess everybody uses an X-Acto knife. X-Acto knife with a number 11 blade is pretty good. And Pam just signed up for a class with Tina from Netherlands to do bookbinding in Maysville. And she had a special knife. And it was a Stanley knife with a with a 9mm break-off blade in it that locks. And she says, the only thing that works, and we looked at it, well, they don't make those in this country anymore. They get them in England. So we somebody got a bunch of them, we finally got them. There's all kinds of these types of knives. That's my point. Different people use different ones. I happen to use scalpels with a number 11 blade fairly often. Scalpels are really nice for fine work. The problem with scalpels are, if you're heavy-handed like me, you're going to break the blades all the time. So I rarely have to throw them away because they're dull. I have to throw them away because I break the blades. And then I have to grind them down because I don't want scalpel blades in the garbage. You know, it's just not a good thing to have.
Table.
Yes.
We can do that. We can do that. I generally just put them on a stand.
Just put them on a piece of masking tape, hold it over a hot.
But that's really true with any type of X-Acto. Some people like the Excel blades better than the X-Acto. I think there's some of you who probably use those a whole lot more than I do. I think that they're pretty good. People resharpen them. I think it's a waste of time. Some people use stainless. They hold an edge a little bit longer. They don't seem to get quite as fine an edge. You can strop them. You can do a lot of things with them. If I use a utility knife, which I do a lot for certain things when I'm making shapes, when the blade gets dull, I'll grind on a grinder or on a sander. I'll just grind it back down a little bit so I get a new point. I mean, you can do that for quite a while, and that works okay. That's a pretty good deal. Okay, for cutting, everybody has little X-Acto fine blade, miter box saws, what do they call it? They're razor saws. Never try and use a coarse blade. Make sure it's fine. The fine works pretty well. The coarse doesn't work at all. The aluminum miter box is fine. They have a tendency to get worn out. Somebody wanted these things, so I made them for them. They're okay. I made them originally with 22.5 degrees and 45. Everybody said, why are you doing not 20? Why are you doing 22.5? I said, well, if you want to do an rectangular box, they always do that. And I stopped doing it because nobody cared. But they do care about the 45 and the even, and that works out okay. One of the people that I know who's a dealer wanted a tiny miter box, so I made these things. And this is probably pretty useful for people who are doing small scale, I would think. I don't do it, but it has the ability to do the same thing. You can find even finer saws. There are some Japanese saws that are finer, but they have a tendency not to have the back on them, and I'm not sure that they're really going to help you. But this has been fairly popular, and it's not awfully difficult to make, but it's rather difficult to cut these things, because what are you gonna cut them with? You know, I don't have a table saw. I have a table saw that's thin, but if I cut something like that with a table saw that's thin, what happens is the blade gets hot, it goes like this, it doesn't cut it straight. Okay, that's that. This, one of the saws that gets no respect at all in miniatures.
And the what?
And that's
Whoa, that was a trick. This is a killer saw frame. I never used one of these things until I took some classes with some very experienced people, and they use them all the time. We used them in class yesterday on brass. You can use them on brass, aluminum, tin. Copper and silver is a little more difficult. You can use them on wood. You always use them with a thing like this, a bench hook, because if you don't want to do this, because if you go through something, it'll cut you really deep. Very dangerous to do that. And it's like a coping saw, only it's little. I think, again, those of you that are doing really small stuff might find this is pretty useful, because I find it is. I also use it on a lathe occasionally if I have to cut something off. I find it's much better than other things. Does anybody, who uses these? Anybody? A couple of you.
Yes, we did.
You know, you do, because you're class.
I already broke 2 blades.
You already broke your blade. We always break blades.
Oh, yeah.
Blades, we sell them a dozen for $5. You can buy them. You can buy a grocery if you want to find them. Everybody breaks them. I'm not going to. This is not a Jewish thing, but I think it's something that doesn't really get a lot of respect as far as hand tools go. Clamps. There are all kinds of different kinds of clamps. There's little spring clamps. Did I throw some of those in the bag, ma'am?
I don't think so. Nope.
No, I didn't. Okay. Well, anyway, they're little spring clamps. We have them on the table. You can see them. There are a variety of other types of clamps, lawn clamps and so forth. I don't use them an awful lot. The brass ones that I think Micromark's still selling them, they're Japanese instrument clamps, musical instrument clamps. They're pretty good if you're really doing a lot of that stuff. We do a lot of casework. How often do you use clamps?
I always have them around. Sometimes in combination with the gluing jigs. It really depends on the piece. They always say you can never have too many clamps. I'm still working on that. I'd like to have too many, but
I use the spring clamps all the time.
spring clamps, even a clothespin can be very useful.
These little things, these are little C clamps. Chip Modeler, who used to make before he passed away, made the pre-act saw. He used to make these things. These are pretty nice if you need a really small clamp, because they're aluminum and nylon, and you can adjust them really tight. They're pretty good. I use Cantwist clamps sometimes on the milling machine. Those are tiny weldless clamps. Those are really good if you want something really tight, not move. So that's my
Alligator clips sometimes.
alligator clips. Yeah, particularly when soldering, which is something we're not going to talk about, but I use them a lot for that. And Pam uses alligator clips when she does the shaker and the barrage boxes and that type of thing. Any questions on hand tools? Okay, well, power tools, there are all kinds of different kinds of power tools. And one category is saws. And we brought in a saw, we've been selling saws forever. If somebody's interested, right at the end of this thing, I'll spend a little bit of time and I can do a demo for you to talk about it a little bit. I've got some literature on them. We modify them and put a fine blade in them with a special bushing, because I don't like the quarter inch or the 16th inch blades that
It comes with.
would come with that.
great for cutting plywood for your smaller structures, but it's a little overpowering for furniture. So these fine blades are much more useful.
Most of them that are available now are coming from Europe, from the Far East, and most of them are metric.
And saws.
The size, all of this type of equipment, with the exception of a couple of lathes. We've tried them all. I don't like the real inexpensive ones. Somebody's thinking, well, what about the Dremel saw that my father had? They're okay, but it's a very aggressive blade. You have to be careful. If you're making a house or something, a Dremel saw works fine, and people did a lot of good work on Dremel saws by putting fine-tooth jeweler's blades in them, and they use them forever. And the old micro-mark saw, the black one, is very similar to this. You can use the same blades on them and works very much the same way. This one just happens to have a better fence and a couple of other little deals on it. The chop saws, Parkson makes the chop saw. You can get some inexpensive ones. I don't have any real experience with them. I don't do anything long enough to warrant that, and I generally use just a miter arm or some sort of a table to cut off things with one of those. You know what I mean when they buy a chop saw? One of these things. You know, like all carpenters use it. But actually, I've got one that Julie Hagel's husband gave me. He didn't use it anymore, and I use it instead of a radial arm saw, and all I use it for is cutting off lumber to 24-inch length. And that's convenient, because I don't have to change things around. But I use it for that, and it's handy to have, and I don't use my bandsaw for that, because my bandsaw is set up to resaw the lumber, and I don't want to change the setup and double blade. But that's a different, you're probably not going to be making 32nd-inch sheets of cherry out of 1-inch thick pieces. Some of you might, but most of you won't. We use a saw more than any other tools. We have, Pam's has 2 of them set up. I have 2 miniature saws set up. One's a tiny pre-act, one's one like this. Actually, I have 2 pre-acts set up. So we have 5 miniature table saws set up, a full-scale table saw, and then a bandsaw and a chop saw.
Everybody ought to have that. I've got 6.
That's it. Yeah, okay. That doesn't include the metal cutting bandsaw in the garage or the chainsaw either.
I can't, that's why I can get my car in there.
Well, we actually went down to 1 car because we needed the room. You don't need to keep a car inside New Hampshire in the winter anyway.
Don't buy that on everybody.
You don't have to sell one fast. Okay, table saws, you're going to use those things to cut straight lines. And that's really the only good way that I know to cut a straight line of any length. You can score things, and you can do a lot of things. People say, can I do it on my scroll saw? Can I do it on my bandsaw? You can do it on a bandsaw if you really know what you're doing and you're careful, but you're going to have to plane it anyway because it's still going to have a little bit of roughness. We use them for picture frames. You'd be using them for trimming windows, for paneling, and any of that type of stuff. Scroll saws. We went crazy with scroll saws when we first started this stuff. We had them all over the place. And of course, they used to call them jigsaws. They're for making curves. We don't use them as much, and it's not because we got a laser, because we don't. We basically started using the jeweler's saw instead, and got one good scroll saw that Pam uses for a bunch of stuff.
Anything with curves, circles, ovals, that sort of thing.
I use it for cutting the slots in these fixtures, and a few other things. I don't use it for a lot of stuff. But I mean, again, it isn't a thing that you're necessarily going to use a lot. But you can live without one if you learn to use a jeweler saw. The one exception would be, somebody asked me, they wanted to come to this thing and they couldn't come. They bought a house and she needs to put a window and a wall in the middle. How am I gonna do that? Well, they said it's probably, unless you've got a big scroll saw, it's difficult to do that. I said, well, can I use a router? And I said, yeah, you can, but you gotta really be careful if you do that. So we decided the best thing for her to do is to cut a 3/8 inch hole, where she had get an electric drill in each corner, and to get some sort of either a hacksaw blade or some sort of a blade like that, put a little tape around it, and gently saw it by hand. You could do it with a coping saw blade. Now you laugh, but here's someone who's got all that equipment, and other than having a big scroll saw, I wouldn't really know a good way to do that now. There's CNC routers that do it really well, and you can use those things that they sell for drywall. That would work, but you gotta know what you're doing.